Welcome everyone, and today I showcase 3 absolutely busted builds that were played in the PTR for the new upcoming expansion. So for the first build, we're going to talk about the musket, and we actually spoke with 3 of the best muskets in the European region to compile this section. So a big shout out going to Reborn, Gwakzy and Tattooo for helping out with some information. I've kind of compiled a lot of the information they gave me into this little article here, and let's get right into it. Alrighty, so essentially there will be a few secondary weapons that I'm going to be showcasing for all of these builds, but let's start with the rapier as the primary. Clearly, this will be a glass cannon approach, utilizing the 250 dex and 350 int, a tier 5 elemental gem to go alongside it. You're going to abuse the range of the musket as much as possible, however, if the enemy does somehow get to gap close you got the sticky nades, you got the rapier here that will give you the invulnerability frames, utilizing the flurry as well as the grits. And of course, because the scale is based on your dex and int, it's going to pack a punch. The secondary approach that I've added is the VG. Now, with the VG, you can spec multiple ways. You could spec with Tether, Rupture, Scream in a more mid-range combative style, Rupture, Orb, Oblivion to purely play for the range game and assist maybe the clumps, or the build displaying right now, which gives a nice balance of utilizing the Scream to peel for yourself, potentially setting up Root up for the nades, Oblivion for the empowerment. It also weakens the enemy if they get on top of you. And on top of that, you got the orb for the additional damage. If you go for the VG approach, the Life Taker artifact is mandatory, because you are implementing free Disintegrate into your primary weapon, which is the musket of course. Disintegrate is pretty much a passive that every time you hit them, you're going to be applying a DOT damage and Ren. The Ren stacks up to 3 times, so of course your musket shots are going to hit way harder. The last approach, for me, is my personal favorite out of the 3, because obviously, playing the glass cannon build, you want to really prioritize your range. You want to be able to kite them as well as do a lot of damage and be able to kill targets. Of course, the Life Taker artifact does apply extra damage because of the Ren and the DOT. However, the BB secondary applies disease, and it's the Pestilence artifact. The Pestilence artifact, just like the Life Taker, applies a debuff on the enemies when attacking them with either weapon, either be the musket or the BB. But instead of the Ren, it applies 7% of disease, and it stacks up to 3 times, so that's 21% of anti-healing. If you're attacking any target that's trying to pot himself or getting healed by a healer, or even hitting the healer who is healing himself, you're going to be negating a lot of that healing, and that obviously is going to facilitate getting kills. Now on top of that, you can also lock the Exhaustive Net Shot perk onto the Pestilence, which provides a 60% stamina exhaust for whoever you actually hit the net shot with, and that's going to make it a lot harder for them to, gap close you as well as kiting away from you. But yeah, you got the net shot, you got the blast shot, 2 abilities you can use to escape, but also sometimes use it offensively. Of course, the grenades being another tool to utilize aggressively, and if you do really want to go and get the extra perk, the Plague Splitting Grenades, you can, but I wouldn't really recommend it. For the next build, we have something that exploits the Spear artifact. It's called the Scorpion Sting. The Scorpion Sting Javelin Throw applies a 40% Ren for anyone above 50% HP and pulls them to you knocked down, which makes it very easy to burst down players utilizing the other weapon. Of course, in this case, it's the blunderbuss. You can use the blunderbuss for the left click and shrapnel, which does a ton of damage. You're mostly using the spear just for the setup and its abilities, while the blunderbuss is for the damage itself. You have the net shot, the skewer to escape or to pressure, but alongside the claw shot as well if you want to really gap close. But again, like I mentioned before, blunderbuss for the big damage, spear for the setup. The other variation here that I'm adding on the spear skill tree is essentially one that you can even use with the sword and shield instead of the blunderbuss. Practically, you're playing a fighting game. You're playing Street Fighter 5, you're playing Marvel vs. Capcom, and you can just do some shenanigans with this. You can do the javelin throw into the vault kick, into the sweep, into the shield bash, into another javelin throw, and just keep it going. It's hilarious. It's probably going to get nerfed. I would assume most of these builds are going to get nerfed anyways when the expansion does come out, but it is something that if it doesn't go through and it stays the way it is currently, I would highly recommend to give it a shot. So for the final build, I will showcase you one that's going to be impossible to kill. It's going to be a menace. It's going to be applying debuff, disease, CCs, everything you think about, but it's still going to pack a little bit of a punch. It's going to be the Flail Blunderbuss. Obviously, you're gonna have the Pestilence here, once again, the artifact that applies disease on both your weapons. Therefore, when you are utilizing the flow, you're going to be applying 7% stack of disease, stacks up to 3 times, so that's 21% total. Of course, the ability You have a lot of abilities here that applies disease as well, such as the plague splitting grenades, which you should lock on the actual artifact itself. That way it saves you a slot on the gear as well. And on top of that, you have a lot of ability combos. You have the trip, you got the smite. You can use your net shot to get out of trouble, but you can also gap close utilizing the net shots. You got the blast shot, which not only rends them, but it knocks them on the floor. And of course, with these knockdowns, you can combo with your other abilities as well. So CC, staggers, weakens, raid cleanses, and of course, because you are playing 350 con, you're going to get damage reduction 15%. You're also going to be getting grit on your primary weapon, which is going to be the flail. And it's just one of those builds that just deserves to be on the list. And of course, we're going to be also adding the VG approach with the VG artifact, the Life Taker. This build also applies some disease with the Petrifying Scream if you do lock it on the artifact, which you should because it's 40% disease. But on top of that, you're going to get rends, you're going to get empowerments coming from the orb as well as from the oblivion, and of course a lot of utility for a build like this, which is purely for the utility, right? You got the, like I mentioned before, the CCs, the stags, the diseases, the empowerments, the weakens, you got everything here. It works pretty damn well with the VG as well, because of course the VG also scales with the focus. And those are all the builds with the variations to go on top of it for today. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you do like the video, make sure to like and subscribe. And on top of that as well, what was your favorite build? Make sure to comment down below and let me know if there is something you want me to showcase as well for the future videos. Thank you guys, and I'll see you guys in the next one.